guys, welcome back to my channel, and if this is your first time here, hi, hello, my name is Helen and I am so glad you could join me today. Today is the second episode of my Freaky Friday kind of like scary story telling for you guys, and I am super excited to get started with it. I picked an article from HuffPost. I have not pre-read any of these, so this is my first time reading through them. I will change any like swear words. I won't use the swear words, or if like something doesn't make sense, I might change it, but otherwise I will read it how it is written on here. The first story I will be reading is called The Cell Phone. A couple of months ago, my friend's cousin, a single mother, bought a new cell phone. After a long day of work, she came home, placed her phone on the counter, and went to watch TV. Her son came to her and asked if he could play with her new phone. She told him not to call anyone or mess with text messages, and he agreed. At around 11:20, she was drowsy, so she decided to tuck her son in and go to bed. She walked to his room and saw he wasn't there. She then ran over to her room to find him sleeping in her bed with the phone in his hand. Relieved, she picked her phone back up from his hand to inspect it. Browsing through it, she noticed only minor changes such as new background, banner, etc., but then she opened up her saved pictures. She began deleting the pictures he had taken until only one new picture remained. When she first saw it, she was in disbelief. It was her son sleeping on her bed, but the picture was taken by someone else above him, and it showed the left half of an elderly woman's face. Ooh. That's creepy. I don't even know what I would do at that point. I would go sleep in a hotel that night. There's no way. Oh, that's creepy. Alright, the second one is called Ghost Bro. My house was built in 1904. It is a single-family home, wood frame setting on a concrete block foundation. I have been living here for about 12 years. Of all the weird things that my siblings and me have seen or heard in this house, this one event is my favorite. This happened to my brother. About 10 years ago, my brother and his best friends had started a garage band playing mostly Spanish rock, alternative music, but in Spanish. His friends could only get together on Sunday afternoons. They would practice into the early evening, and they would usually call it quits by 8 p.m. This was the time I usually showed up and went to bed because I worked the graveyard shift. This happened in late fall, so the days were getting shorter. They had just finished a long session when the decision to head to someone else's house came about. My brother handed his car keys to his buddies so they could load up the equipment. Everyone had filed out of the basement, but the tricky part was that they needed to walk all the way to the back of the basement, up the back stairs, through the kitchen doorway, down the hall, into the living room, and out the front porch. Everyone was outside, sitting in my brother's truck waiting for him. My brother was walking up the back stairs when he remembered that he had left his pancakes in a to-go container sitting in a speaker in the basement. He made the decision to go back. Now, the basement is not clean with full sight lines. There had been partitions made. The boiler, the main heating unit were right smack in the middle. So after my brother walks back, he is about to retrieve his food container when out of the corner of his eye, he sees it. It is a shadowy figure right at his peripheral vision. This feeling of dread and uneasiness washed over my brother. We had been taught that if you were in the presence of a spirit or a ghost, and you felt a bad vibe, to say quick prayer or to cuss at it. My brother chose the latter. He basically told it, "Hey, F you, I don't have time for this poop." I don't know what word to put in there for it. My brother started to walk to the back of the basement and briskly up the stairs, closing doors and turning off lights as he was walking out. The last light switch is on the opposite side of the front door. Luckily, the door was open and the light from the street lamp was flooding the living room with its amber light. My brother said he felt something at his back, but at no point did he turn around. As he flicked the last switch of the living room went dark, as did the rest of the house. As he stepped out, he pulled on the door, closing it behind him. Still holding his food container in one hand, he jogged down the few porch steps. He walked towards the front gate. Our house resides far from the main street, essentially having a large front yard but no rear garage. As he closed the gap between himself and his friend-laden truck, he kind of smiled and thought things over in his head, mad at himself for spooking out when there was no reason. He climbed into the driver's side of the truck, putting on his seatbelt and getting ready to pull out of the parking spot directly in front of the house, when one of his friends asked, "Hey, wait, what about your brother? Isn't he coming with us?" My brother answered, "What do you mean? He went to work early tonight. He's already gone. Do you see his car anywhere?" The next question they asked, so then who was walking behind you when you were leaving the house? That one's pretty creepy. Next one is called The Following. My older sister has a ghost that followed her around for years. I lived with her once for about 3 months, and so much weird stuff happened in that time. All my sister would say to me when I mentioned it was that her ghost didn't like me being there. Things like going to bed with everything locked up and switched off, and waking up in the morning with the back door open, lights on, and the kettle switched on. One night, my sister and I were getting ready to go out, and I'd asked to borrow her liquid foundation. I used it and put it back where she kept her makeup. 10 minutes later, she's asking me for it, and it's nowhere to be seen. She accused me of taking it and made me buy her a new one, and refused to listen to my side of the story. About a year or so later, when she was packing to move to a new house, she found the makeup in a shoebox with some old letters. The shoebox was in a zipped-up suitcase that was underneath her bed. But probably the most scared I ever felt was one afternoon when I was the only one in the house, which never happened as 4 other people lived there. I'd arrived home from work and headed straight to the bathroom. All the doors, windows, etc. were closed. I was standing in the bathroom and started squeezing a pimple on my chin when a female voice in the hall said, "Stop picking your zits." It was loud enough and sounded real enough that at the time I thought it was my sister, so I laughed, told her to heck off, and asked what she was doing for dinner. No answer. I stuck my head out in the hall. No one was there. I searched the house top to bottom, and there was no one home. I sat out on the front porch until someone else got home because I didn't want to be there alone. That's kind of creepy and kind of funny at the same time. Like, the ghost is maybe a past dermatologist. Don't pick your zits. The next one is called The Whispers. This is a story I do not often tell. I promise sincerely that this has scarred me for life, and although I have looked into psychological explanations for what I heard and natural explanations for what occurred, they remain unsatisfactory. When I was a child, I was scared of the dark. I swore to my mother I heard voices in it. They were not evil, but they were not familiar, and so they scared me. It was not uncommon in the middle of the night for me to wake up and hear whispers, as I would call them, when asking my mom. She figured they were just bumps in the night and typical kids' nightmare material. I tried often to explain to her that it was more than that they sounded different from one another, the way people's voices do. On some nights, I would get so scared from these whispers that I would sleep in my mom's bed with her. It was an added bonus that the bathroom was directly outside her bedroom door for my late night tingles. I should add at this point that when walking out into the hall to go to the bathroom, you look directly down the stairs that would lead you into my living room on the 1st floor, as my mom's bedroom was on the 2nd floor. On one such night around Christmas, I awoke and felt the need to relieve myself. I walked out the door and distinctly heard the phrase, "Look," and to my astonishment, a red light, almost like a spotlight, was cast upon the wall at the very bottom of the stairs. The light had no other source, it was by itself, and I was transfixed by it. Being a little kid and it only being a few days from Christmas, I knew what this light was. It was Santa. How else could he get into my house to know I was being a good boy? I was so excited I began walking down the stairs to greet him, picking up my pace after the 2nd step as it began to creep off the wall and fade into the darkness in my living room. That's when I heard him. A very strong masculine voice, different from the first. Not at all like my father's, not to say that he isn't masculine, it was just distinctly different. It said, "Stop, right now. Go back up those stairs." That gave me goosebumps. I listened, turned around, and what happened next, I'm not sure I would believe if someone had told me the same story. After reaching the top of the stairs, I heard a very loud crash that sent me running back to my mother's bed, where I jumped straight under the covers and stayed there the whole night. When I awoke the next morning, the poinsettia lights, little Christmas flower lights that glowed red, my mother had put on the railing down the stairs were pulled straight down to the bottom of the stairs, some broken from what seemed like a forceful tear, laying in a single pile. The dry sink in my living room had fallen from the wall. My mother could not explain it. The dry sink in my living room? I don't know. My mother could not explain it. My father was worried we had been the victims of a hoodlum invasion. My sister was crying. There was nothing missing. Nobody had broken in. There did not seem to be any reason this had happened. And then I saw it, and I kept quiet about it because I was so afraid that I could not force words out of my mouth. There, on the edge of the wooden dry sink, which had been facing up, were 3 indentations where the finish on the wood had been worn, almost as if a forceful grip. Something down there had grabbed it and threw it down. That was what the bang was. I was mortified. After that day, I never heard a single voice again. I do not like to imagine what was waiting downstairs for me that night, if it was anything at all, but I can tell you that the reality was that something had physically acted upon two things in my house near the bottom of the stairwell. After this, I never heard another whisper again, which is sad because in some ways I would have liked to thank the man or masculine energy that had stopped me from going down those stairs. This happened when I was 7. I'm 20 years old now, and because of this incident, I am still afraid of the dark, especially shadowy stairwells. That's pretty creepy, but I guess it's good that that man or shadow, whatever entity thing stopped him, so yikes. The next one is called The Grandfather. My grandfather told me the story about how one time he was sitting in a chair in front of the house when he heard his wife repeatedly calling him from inside the house. The thing is, my grandmother passed away a few years before that, but he told me that the voice was so pressing that he actually got up to look inside the house, and as soon as he got inside, he heard a loud crash behind him and turned around to see that the chair he had been sitting in moments ago had been crushed by the cast iron gutter that fell on it. If he hadn't come inside the house, he would have probably been seriously injured. I don't know if it's paranormal or not, but every time I think about it, it sends chills down my spine. Yeah, that just gave me goosebumps. I'm digging all these life-saving ones. I hope that if I ever experience anything super paranormal, it's to save my life. Yikes. The next one is called The Crib Shadow. I was babysitting my niece once while I was staying at my brother's place, and they had a baby camera set up so I could see her on the little TV it came with. I was studying and starting to doze off when I heard some whispering and realized it was coming from the monitor. I initially thought it was some feedback or something, but when I looked at the TV, there was a dark shadow near my niece's crib. I had never been more terrified in my life, but the shadow was clearly there where it had not been before. I ran to my niece's room and looked around and saw nothing, but I took her the heck out of there. I went back to the TV and the shadow was clearly gone. I told my brother what happened and he pulled me aside and told me not to mention it to my sister-in-law because she'll freak out, but that he had seen the same thing several times now and the same whispering. They stayed in that house for about 4 more years, and when my niece was just learning to talk, she would tell her mom about her special friend. To this day, it scares the heck out of me. When they moved out, my brother told me my niece had been inconsolably sad because she would miss her friend. Her mom would tell her she could bring him along, but all she would say is that he couldn't leave the house. We've never to this day told her about that darn shadow, and she apparently never saw it. The next one is called The Shadow. I didn't know what it was called until much later. I was living in a house in Laguna Beach that had been there since the 1920s. In its history, it had been a speakeasy, a brothel, and a house for smuggling illegal immigrants. One day, my new wife and I were having an argument. I can't even recall what it was about. She walked down the block to get a cup of coffee and cool off, and I was alone in the house. The way the place was built was incredibly haphazard. There was a bedroom and living room on one side, and then a bathroom and 2 entrances. On the other side of the bathroom was a hallway. A bathroom with 2 entrances. On the other side of the bathroom was a hallway that had windows on one side and 2 bedrooms on the other. From my bedroom, I could look across the hall into the bathroom, then through the bathroom and down the other hall. I was standing at my dresser, and I just noticed movement out of the corner of my eye. And I looked down there. There was, and honest to God, this gives me goosebumps just typing it, 17 years later, a black figure. It was maybe 3 foot tall, and it was only vaguely humanoid. It looked like black scribbles, like someone had scribbled a human shape, but the scribbles moved like electricity arcing. That's the best way to describe it. There was no sound that I could remember. I distinctly remember when I saw it, I wasn't afraid, just like WTF. Then it noticed me looking at it. I can't say it turned around, it just focused on me, I guess. Then I was scared. I didn't move, I didn't scream, nothing. I was just frozen because it just flipping came at me. It rushed down the hall towards me. I have no idea what it intended, but as soon as it entered the bathroom, the door closest to me just slammed shut on it. I screamed. I yelled for my wife. She wasn't home. I went the heck outside into the daylight and didn't go back in until she got home about 10 minutes later. I don't believe in ghosts, but I don't believe I saw something supernatural, but I know I saw something. I just don't know what it was. That's pretty creepy. The door closest to him slammed shut, like, before the thing could get to him. I don't know if he shut it. It wasn't quite clear, but that's pretty creepy. The next one, and I think is going to be the last one that I'm going to read tonight. I'm getting kind of tired. It's kind of late. This one is called The Princess. How did the princess take control of our message board, if only for a few seconds? It didn't make any sense. Our message board wasn't a video game. Our message board pulled all its information from the internet. The princess was already inhabiting a game at the same time. All the rules we thought we knew, all the things we thought kept us safe, had failed us. Could she have done this at any time? Could she do it again? Were there any real limits to what she was capable of? We looked through all the data we'd collected. We tried to find some common thread we'd been missing. There must have been some way we could have known. There had to be more answers than what we were seeing, and there were. We finally realized the truth. It was so obvious. The princess had been in our message board the whole time. She was on every page. She was on every forum list. She'd been staring at us, watching us for years, and we never even saw it. She was the banner at the top of the forum. She was every screenshot we posted, every video we uploaded, and every piece of fan art we'd drawn. Every image of her is her. Every image of her, when observed, gives her power. She's not a ghost. She's not a computer virus. She's an idea. Living fiction. She lives off our observation and thoughts of her. When we all watched that stream, banded together, and gave her all of our attention all at once, we made her more powerful than she'd ever been before. We made her strong enough to manifest through the images we'd posted on our message board and speak directly to us. We took down all the images. From what we speculate, it's enough to simply never look at them again, but we deleted them all just to be certain. However, it may already be too late for us. I've been losing contact with other members of the society. I can't tell if something's happened to them or if they've simply gone into hiding, but at this point, only a fool wouldn't consider the worst case scenario. I'm not completely heartless. I know she's fighting for her survival now. For her, being forgotten is death. She does what she does in the hopes of keeping her memory alive. Perhaps my telling her story to the world is a small act of mercy. Maybe the thoughts I've lent her will ease her pain somewhat. I don't know, but either way, that isn't why I wrote all of this. What I've told you could put you in great danger, but it could also save your life. You're a target now, and in the months and years ahead, she may well come for you. But I've also given you all the knowledge you need to keep yourself safe. Do not try to fight her. Do not try to talk to her. Do not try to outsmart or trap her. Don't investigate. Don't try to understand. Don't try to be a hero. Don't try to be her savior. It is my sincere hope that I've given you all the answers you want, so you won't make our mistake and try to investigate further. There's one and only one thing you need to do to be safe. If you see her, turn off the game. That's kind of creepy. Was it really that creepy? Probably not. Alright guys, that is the end of tonight's Freaky Friday Scary Stories. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday, and now on Fridays I post a Freaky Friday scary story time. I will see you guys next time. Bye!